Welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy alongside Charlie and Jesse. It's funny when we don't say our last names. And we are going to talk about the transfer window because it is almost upon us. The big January transfer window where some signings could help you go on to win something, and maybe some signings can help you potentially get relegated. But we're going to focus on the U.S. men's national team player pool and which players we think need to make a move. I do want to state for the record, somewhat of a preface, that some of the names that I might drop in particular are just players that I think have maybe hit a ceiling in their particular teams and might need to make a move elsewhere to continue to grow as players. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to make that move in January. It could be over the summer, but they probably should start considering it. I'm just going to throw that preface out there. But the big name, and a name that was on all of our lists as somebody that absolutely has to make a move, is Gio Reyna. And Chuck, I'm coming to you first. Why do you think Gio Reyna should move? I think it's pretty obvious for all of us that are paying attention. But where should he go? Because I don't necessarily think we're all on the same page about what that next team should be for him.
Okay. Well, one, I think it's extremely evident that he needs to move based on playing time alone and availability when he is healthy. Because we're talking 2020, 2021. In that season alone, he started 23 matches. 32 matches he played, 23 starts. 1,900 minutes. Okay. That and 4 goals, 7 assists. That to me is like, we have a gem of a young player. This is when he was being, nominated on all these different awards. Golden Boy Award, he was nominated. So he goes from that to the following season, of course, dealing with injuries, but 10 appearances, 6 starts, 440 minutes. To 2022, 2023, 22 matches, only starting 4, 7 goals, 2 assists. So That's a pretty good return, given you only started 4 games, 609 minutes. To 2023, 2024, this season, he has only played in 8 matches, 228 minutes combined. The last 3 matches he's played in, he's played 18 minutes, 32 minutes, and 8. That, to me, shows that the manager has no trust in Gio Reyna, whether that is to stay fit or, in my opinion, he doesn't think that he's good enough to start because he's healthy. And the reason he came into this season healthy, if you remember, he broke his fibula in the Nations League, which is, he was playing really well, playing in that number 10 role for the first time with the U.S. men's national team. He absolutely balled and sustains that injury. But for me, this is a player who needs to move. Similar in the same vein as Christian Pulisic towards the end of his career with Chelsea, he wasn't getting the respect you felt that he deserved with his performances that he was putting in when he was on the pitch. That the team wasn't doing well. He showed real positive play, some impact substitutions, yet he was not getting the start. So with Christian, he only started 14 games. He's only started 8 games last year with Chelsea and 13 in 2021, 2022. So you could see the decline given the availability. And I think that just shows the trust within the coaching staff of the player. And for me, Gio Reyna needs to go somewhere where he's going to play. First and foremost, he needs to play. That doesn't mean making a move.
This is a really long tease here. You're teasing us here. Where do you think he should go? I'm just like dying. Where's Chuck going to say? Where's he going to go?
All right. So we're not talking English Premier League. So for the people that think you go from not playing in Dortmund to the English Premier League, it's just not happening. Where could he go? So
you want me to take it from here? I have some ideas.
Yeah, you go.
Yes.
So first, what I think is first, I'm surprised that it's deteriorated at Dortmund, because everything that I've always heard out of Dortmund is that they really like Gio. They really like his talent. They like his personality, that he trains well, that he puts a lot into it. He needs, for me, I think he needs 2 things. He needs a team he's going to play, that's going to play in European matches so that he gets opportunities to play in lots of moments. And for me, a team that plays intensive, because sometimes Gio, I think, has a tendency to get a little bit comfortable on the pitch and do the things that he likes, which is to play football and knock the ball around. And for me, for his potential to grow, he needs to be a guy that still covers ground, that plays dynamic, that's on the move. That's the best way for me, I think, to see him to continue to grow. The 2 places, one would be staying in the Bundesliga at Frankfurt. The coach there is Dino Topmuller. He was with Julian Nagelsmann. I think he's doing a really good job with the team there. They're playing in Europe, and I think they have a really good squad and still room for him to play within that team in a way that fits who Gio is. The place I'd really like to see him go is Real Sociedad. So I think he'd be great in Spain. They have a great coach, right? Someone who's been in the academy and been back and forth, Alguacil. And so they would, for me, fit. They like to play with the ball. They play intensively against the ball. They're very clever in their tactics and how they move and play. They're very dynamic. And I think Gio would be a perfect fit there. And by the way, I think he could handle living in San Sebastian. I think that'd be a little bit nicer than Dortmund. But I think, honestly, between the way they play, the level of the league, playing in Champions League, the quality on the pitch of his teammates, I think this would be a perfect fit for him.
Okay, Charlie, let's pretend that Jesse's not here. Let's just talk like players, and Jesse can be the coach here on this. When I hear Jesse talking about what Gio needs to do for his growth, a lot of it feels like it's a choice. It's Gio making the choice. I'm going to start to play more dynamic. I'm going to stop drifting in and out of games. I'm going to try to find the ball as much as possible. These are choices for me as a player. I'm sure you got some instruction from your coaches along the way saying, hey, Charlie, we know you're great at this, but we need you to do X, Y, and Z to actually go to where we think you can go. And then it's up to you to buy into those X, Y, and Z's. I think Gio's still very young. Do you think he's in that position now where, because he's not playing a lot, he now has to listen in a way and take maybe insight and instruction where he maybe didn't have to before? And then we can let Jesse chime in.
Yeah, I mean, the ball's in your court as a player, especially when you're at some of these clubs where you're an investment. So I remember my time in Hammarby where Tony Gustafsson took me aside and said, hey, look, you may be frustrated because you're not starting, you're coming in as a sub, but I decide when you play, and you need to do this, and then you'll start to play. You'll start to get starts. And I remember being like, okay, all right, I got two options. It's do what he wants or not play, or not start, not play as much as I want. So, you have to, then I'd stay after practice. I'd work with the captain. I'd work with the goalkeeper coach in finishing. And you ultimately have to earn the trust by showing the commitment to the team, commitment to his tactics, what he wants. But then as you start to do those things, then you start to float away and stop thinking about what he wants. And then you start playing back to the way that you've always played and just enjoying things. So there's a little bit of Gio finding what he enjoys the most when he's on the pitch, the way he gets all the touches, the way he can kind of glide through the midfield, versus maybe a coach saying, I want more dynamic movements out of you. I want to see you taking players 1v1, slipping passes, being more north-south instead of the east to west, and connecting passes, a lot of tiki-taka. So for me, I think it's a little bit of Gio saying, all right, I'll listen to the coach. And you could tell he's stubborn. He wants to, he thinks he knows the answers. He wants to just go out there and play and, hey, let me do my thing. I'm good. I got this, versus I got you, coach. Keep your mouth shut, put your head down, and just work. And then now another part of that sometimes you can't control, and that's the health, right? The injuries that have happened, whether it's inflicted from a terrible tackle in the Nations League or some of these muscular issues that he's had to deal with. So I'm very confident he'll get past the injuries. And now it's just about knowing how to walk the line of a manager that's demanding of you and trying to do what you feel is best for you in your game and what you like to do, and what excites you when you're on the pitch. So he's a talented player, and I agree with Jesse. La Liga feels like a great fit for him, maybe even Serie A. And if I was going to pick a club in La Liga, I think the same issue with Dortmund would be he wouldn't probably get as much playing time as he'd like, because, I mean, Real Sociedad have some real ballers in positions that he plays, the key positions. So he might get those rotation minutes, but those guys aren't going anywhere unless they're going to Real Madrid or Barcelona.
Well, then it feels like he's got to take a step back then to get those minutes.
So
let me put air quotes, because whatever the step back is.
Yeah, it's really not a step back if you're going to a better league, but maybe a team that's not competing in Champions League.
Where he could be the guy. I think he's got to be the guy and learn the responsibilities of the guy.
So Villarreal, Valencia, Villarreal, and Sevilla are the three. I know Sevilla are a little bit turmoil with the coaching, but those three clubs, I think fit
Just
his profile.
Some good names there. I would be thrilled if he had that opportunity and just had a little something different. I think maybe he's fallen into a bit of a rut, and sometimes you need that, as you mentioned with Christian Pulisic. Now, Jesse, I know you want to touch upon the Gio thing, but I want to twist this a little bit and talk quickly about Brenden Aaronson, because he seems like a player that definitely needs to make a move or find a better situation.
1000%.
But he, and you've coached him at Leeds, so you know, he seems like a guy that will do everything that you're asking him to do. Maybe to a fault, and then it's still not working for him in some ways, and he can't find that consistency, especially at Union Berlin. What are your thoughts on Brenden, and what would be next for him?
Yeah, I mean, he's a pleasure to coach, a pleasure, and he will put everything that you want him to do to practice. He puts a lot of pressure on himself. Puts a lot of pressure on himself to not let anybody down, to meet expectations. And for me, that's one of his benefits and detriments, right? Strengths and weaknesses. And that's often the case with us as people and players. But I would often say to him, like, don't worry about letting me down or your teammates down. You have to have a little bit more of a son of a bitch mentality that says, give me the ball. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of this. I got this. I'm going to run with it. And I think with everything that went on with Leeds, that the pressure started to mount with him a little bit, and then he internalizes it and he starts to become a little bit too nervous on the pitch instead of being his fearless, free self where he just goes out and plays. And so I do think he's going to have to find a situation where there's structure in the team that he plays with, but also a little bit more freedom for him to just go out and play. And he may have to drop down a little bit of a level to get his confidence back, get himself on the pitch a little bit more, and find his rhythm again so he can kind of pick up where he left off. So I'm not sure. You know, they're talking about that maybe Union wants to send him back. And then Leeds has talked a little bit about, yeah, they'd be open to bring him back. I'm not sure how excited he would be about that opportunity. I know that we had a really good time when we were in Leeds together. I'm just not sure where everything stands right now. And there may be an opportunity for him to have another loan somewhere. And again, what's important for him is that he has to play right now. He has to find a way to get himself on the pitch and get playing again.
Well, thankfully, the transfer window is a month long, and we're not even into January yet. So we'll have plenty of time to get into other players. But some of note that we had down in our WhatsApp group, we had Cameron Carter-Vickers that probably might need to make a move from Celtic at some point. Maybe Big Ange will bring him from Celtic over to Spurs because they clearly don't trust some of their other center backs.
That's for, you would say he's maximized his
he's hit his ceiling at Celtic, right?
Yeah.
He needs to continue to grow. We also had shouts for Ethan Horvath, who definitely needs to get out of purgatory with Nottingham Forest. I threw out some players like Tanner Testament at Venezia, who I think is really starting to come into his own. Maybe he still needs a little bit more time to be the guy, but kind of similar to what we're talking about with Brenden and Gio. He's getting that really valuable experience of playing regularly, being counted on regularly, and still having to show up and prove his consistency. Taylor Booth, has he done enough at Utrecht? I know he's hurt a little bit in and out of the team, but I like maybe seeing him. Mark McKenzie's another one. Brian Reynolds, Caleb Wiley going MLS, Jack McGlynn. Is it time for them to make a move and test themselves somewhere else? So those are some of the names that we were thinking about and talking about. We'll discuss later on at some point.